stops the productions.
It was a layered operation that achieved many objectives, but it facilitated the growth of the state as well. And it facilitated that path of the dystopian nightmare, and the violation of our inherent rights. So that was an inherent example of the federal government's abuse of power.
Oh, Father, tell me, do we get what we deserve? Oh, we get what we deserve.
Holy cow. About a third of the building has been blown away.
And way down we go. Oh, way down we go. Say way down we go. And way down we go. Oh, 'cause they will run you down to the dark. Yes, then they will run you down till you fall. Oh, and they will run you down till you go. Yeah, till you can't crawl no more. No.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Jose. Welcome to another No Way Jose. We're digging into part 2 of deep diving Dr. Painting's new research. This is quite the compelling thread. Looking forward to going over it with you guys. I've already breezed through it once. Obviously, I'm by no means saying I have a firm grip on the material yet. I'm still processing a lot of this, and as such, that's why I'm presenting it in such a way as we are today, as sort of almost like a live reading with some sort of minimal commentary. I will say a difference between today and the last episode. I do think I'm going to go the extra effort to read each individual little excerpt. Some of them I may not. Last time I was more dismissive. But then once we got into the episode, it was 45 minutes. It was more of a time management thing. I wasn't sure. For some reason, I thought it was going to be a lot longer. So now we're going to take the extra time, go through each individual one. And it was like I was kind of breezing over stuff when it was like, I think she's just providing this here to show that, hey, it's not just her saying this, and, kind of doing her due diligence. And so it was just I just didn't want to have to belabor the point, but considering I don't feel like it would have really been belaboring the point now in retrospect, since it didn't end up being that long, so it wouldn't have been in my head belaboring essentially. But kind of a miscalculation on my part. Can't go back and do it again, but we will trudge on, and it will be a little bit more diligent in kind of going into each little excerpt as we go through today. Hey, I see Murder, Death, Kill in here. Hey, what's up? A little reminder for the people who watch this later publicly, you can get this as a live stream when it comes out. But before we go ahead and get to the episode, I do want to take a moment to remind you guys that today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Nadeau Shave Co. If you're tired of that razor burn, the irritation, and those ingrown hairs that come from those multi-blade cartridges, this is the way to go. Nadeau Shave Co. This is superior to the multi-blade cartridge in every way. These single-blade safety razors gives you a much better shave. It gives you a smoother shave. It's better for your skin. Your skin will thank you. Your wallet will thank you. It's a lot cheaper. It's $75 for the first year, and that's not even with the discount you get. If you let them know that I sent you, you'll get an additional 10% discount. And also, that's $75. That's just the first year. After that, you're just buying blades. It gets cheaper after that. So, it's already cheaper than the alternative if you think about it. That's a year. Do the math. It's a kind of a no-brainer. It's also from a company that doesn't hate your guts. This is a COVID mandate refusing company. It was born at refusing the COVID mandate. So send them over. Send them some business. Let them know I sent them over their way. They deserve it. I think it's a great product and a great entrepreneur that puts it out. So with that, let's go ahead and get back into it, guys. Let's just get straight into it. Like I said before, this how these are being done. I'm just going to kind of literally providing Wendy's work and just kind of providing minimal commentary as we go, trying my best to kind of parse out my words and her words so you don't get confused, but I will be putting the links for these in the video or podcast description, depending on where you're watching or listening to this, so you will be able to go look into this on your own. If I didn't do my due diligence, like I kind of said in the last episode where I kind of breezed over one, you can kind of go look into that. You also can do, help out to spread the word, like, share, or like, retweet, that kind of stuff, comment, ask questions, those sort of things. So those will be the places, and you can follow her, and this is where you can ask her these sorts of questions. So yeah, let's go ahead and get into it, and not to dig into any more. Starting right off the jump, this is part 2. This is in early June 95. Oh God, why did I butchered it already? In early June 1995, McVeigh told his defense team that he had a significant number of underground right-wing connections whom he knew independently of Fortier or Nichols. Now, here she provides, as kind of the header, the jumping off this thread, a photo of McVeigh. I will say, I'm not sure when this photo is from. She doesn't say in it. It looks vaguely familiar, so I don't know if it's an exclusive photo. I'm not saying she's saying it was, but I don't know. Just this is an interesting photo because it is one where you get a baby face McVeigh. Almost, I would presume this maybe, but it was like during his military, if I had to guess. Just kind of has that look, kind of that very, very young. I don't know. Just kind of, this is one of those faces where you kind of see the boyish features. It makes you a little bit more sympathetic to him. So I don't know, kind of an interesting photo. On January 1993, McVeigh abruptly left his home in western New York and set out on his multi-state bombing odyssey, which ended even more abruptly on April 19th, 1995. Shortly before this, in October 1992, the FBI interviewed the sheriff of San Saba County, Texas, and another man about the Texas Reserve Militia, a.k.a. 1st Texas Light Infantry, who were conducting paramilitary training at a ranch in San Saba. As I've said, I didn't caveat in this episode, but I'm not hand-holding you guys. I'm kind of assuming you're coming into here with a certain level of knowledge about the Oklahoma City bombing lore. But this one I feel like is worthwhile. Maybe some of you might not caught it. Texas Light Infantry. Usually you might hear most people probably when they, if you hear them on the podcast circuits talking about the Oklahoma City, and this does come up, usually there's probably going to be referred to as TLI. So just if that rings a bell, this plays into it. So we're already getting the infamous, TLI, which is one of the areas we know Strassmeyer ended up being at. So let's keep moving. Let's read these excerpts attached to, let's see actually what these are first, what she has attached to it. We have one, some sort of document of some sort. I don't know if this is a 302. Let me see. The following investigation was conducted in San Saba, Texas on Monday, October 26, 1992 by Special Agent Redacted, Sheriff John Benner, San Saba County, and Redacted were both interviewed in the sheriff's office at San Saba, Texas. Both were provided with basic information concerning a survivalist group called the Texas Reserve Militia, also known as 1st Texas Light Infantry. Each was also shown a photograph of Redacted. Both Sheriff Benner and Redacted advised that they had one contact with Redacted. All right, getting a little ridiculous. Redacted here. Sheriff Benner advised that Redacted called him about a year ago, introduced himself as a police officer from the Redacted area. Redacted explained to the sheriff that he had a group of men who would be practicing firearms on a ranch near Redacted in San Saba County, and he wanted the sheriff to know that. He told the sheriff that the sheriff and any deputies in the county were welcome to practice with his Redacted group. Redacted advised that approximately 6 months to 1 year ago, he was in the United States Post Office at San Saba in uniform. He was approached by Redacted, who introduced himself and stated that he had a group of men who practiced firearm on a regular basis on a ranch near Redacted. Redacted San Saba, Texas was interviewed in the sheriff's office at the San Saba County Courthouse. Redacted advised he had personal contact with the Redacted group in what was probably around September of 91. At their ranch near Locker, Texas, he believes that they were leasing this property prior to buying it out, or to Redacted buying it outright, but he is not sure. Redacted advised that in what was probably around September 1991, he heard shooting coming from this particular ranch near Redacted and went on the premises of the ranch to investigate. It was during quail season. From a hidden location, he watched a number of men taking target practice. While in the area, he found some quail feathers, making him believe that the men were poaching quail. Okay, let's keep going. And then after a few minutes, he emerged from his concealed position and talked to two of the men who were shooting. After he'd talked to these men for a few minutes, two other men emerged from the brush behind him, on opposite sides of him, giving him the feeling that they had been watching him from afar to see what he would do. While on the ranch, he observed survey maps and aerial photographs, military-type ammunition boxes, and lots of military-type equipment. He did not observe any explosives or fully automatic weapons, although on other occasions he has heard fully automatic weapons coming from this ranch. Redacted advised that he did not see any sandbag bunkers on the premises, but he did not see the entire premises. There were some women, at least two, who were on the ranch on the day he was there. He went in some sheds east of the main residence on the ranch while he was present on this day, but did not see anything unusual. Redacted said there were approximately 6 to 7 men and 2 females on the ranch at the time he was there, as described above. All right. All right. The group, now on to the next tweet, next part of this thread. The group, which had been under investigation for years, had close ties to Aryan Nations, CMA, and other paramilitary groups around the country. CMA, Civilian Material Assistance, for those, as I said before, not hand-holding, but just a reminder, jogging of the memory. That's the one Roger Moore usually brought up as having associations with. And other paramilitary groups around the country, obviously back to Wendy's words, so that little comment was mine. And other paramilitary groups around the country, including in Arizona, and was cited as an initial justification for the creation of PATCON. Okay. All right, let's read these documents here. Oh, geez, man, these are a lot of redacted here. So I'm going to skip over a lot. It's basically redacted, advised that redacted, like a whole bunch of stuff redacted. Announced that open war with the U.S. government would come within the next year. Source observed sandbag bunkers which had been built by the TLI on this ranch for the purpose of using them as defensive positions when they go to war to the U.S. government. Redacted, TLI, redacted, talked openly of how pipe bombs, and then what do we got here? Redacted has experimented with the detonating pipe bombs in junk cars at some location, redacted, and said the local cops have gotten a lot of calls from people who have heard me, but the local cops don't know who is doing it. Redacted makes the bombs as residents, and redacted having a book of how to make C4 explosives. For information of receiving offices, in July 1990, FBI search of another TLI training area under the Open Fields Doctrine recovered one small pipe bomb which had been detonated and one partially constructed pipe bomb. FBI lab concluded these bombs made by a quote-unquote skilled craftsman. 3 TLI members directly interviewed regarding the activities of the TLI emphatically deny any experimentation with explosives. Redacted brought 10,000 rounds of .223 caliber ammo and other supplies to Redacted, claiming Redacted had stolen said items from the U.S. Army at Fort Hood, Texas. Oh, okay. What is that? That's not a punch out, is it? I don't know. I can't recall. I know there was it might have been punch out. I don't know. I know there was an operation where they were trying to bust these guys who were stealing items. So yeah. Here we go. I just can't remember the specific name. I want to say Punch-Out. I can't say it for sure if I'm right with that one. Independent investigation has identified this subject and confirmed that redacted, the TLI has numerous stashes of ammunition in Texas. Redacted, a set 37 millimeter flare. All right, on to the next one. Page 6. Gun being used by TLI. Redacted told that the group plans to modify it to fire the same high explosive rounds used by the Army's M79 grenade launcher. Said high explosive rounds also to be stolen from Fort Hood. Okay, all right. We're getting there. All right, more documents here in the next tweet that we'll go through together. Sorry. Here we go. God dang it. This being glitchy. Sorry. Give me a second. Techniques of ambush, patrolling. If this seems disjointed for the audio, we're reading documents. So these are, 302s, FBI documents, all the like. And so they're going to be, I'm literally just reading off their stuff. So This will be one that, as I said in the last episode, you may get more benefit out of this as a visual episode, but I don't know, maybe you are able to tell via, I don't know, context what I'm saying. But yes, we're reading these documents now. It does kind of just jump in because we're getting random spots in these documents, kind of like what concerns the interesting stuff, obviously. So we're jumping in techniques of ambush, patrolling, house-to-house fighting, rappelling, and parachute jumping. Many are ex-military officers. Independent investigation has confirmed that Redacted of the TLI is a veteran, Redacted, and has been the Army Reserve and Army National Guard, Redacted. All right, you've got my attention now, I will say. That is already describing a certain person I know. The contacts with TLI members by CI number 1, CI number 3, and CI number 4 referred to above have been from January of 1991 through May 1991. The original threats made by TLI members against 2 specific FBI agents in the Austin, Texas, RA Redacted have been supported by Redacted, confirmed. Contemporary conversations he had with Redacted of the TLI, in which Redacted stated that one specific bureau agent in Austin, Texas, was a big cog in ZOG, Zionist Occupied Government, or occupational, as I saw it somewhere else, I don't know, and would make a good target if you want to strike a blow against ZOG. In January of 91, another member of the TLI told Redacted that the group was in possession of military C4 explosives and had trained with them, reported Redacted that complaints from people who heard automatic weapons and explosions coming from Redacted Ranch have been squelched by Redacted's subsequent investigation, has fully identified this police officer and his partner. Redacted would be making additional payments of some kind to Redacted for the assistance Redacted was providing. During direct interview of Redacted in January of 91, Redacted volunteered the name of Redacted as a close associate of his. Also in the explosive issues, Redacted observing empty cartons marked high explosives at the group San Saba, Texas training site. Redacted investigation has disclosed that soldier at Fort Hood, has disclosed that Redacted was corresponding with a soldier at Fort Hood, Texas. This would be a possible source of military C4 explosives for the TLI. Redacted observed, 100 to 150 shoulder weapons, including M16s. This source observed group training at the San Saba, Texas location in Redacted. The training was SWAT-type training on how to enter and clear a house under combat conditions. Let me see. The Texas Light Reserve Militia, also known as the 1st Texas Light Infantry, and also calling themselves the Order, so that's significant for those who know this lore, is a paramilitary survivalist group of white males numbering 12 to approximately 50, that's quite the range, in the Austin, Texas area. Some of the members are known long-term and prominent members / associates of the Aryan Nation. The group is primarily made up of white males residing in the Austin, Texas area, but also includes persons from Houston and Las Vegas and at least one foreign national from Germany. In 1988, the group called itself the Texas Reserve Militia. In 1989, it also used the title 1st Texas Light Infantry. In 1990, members of the group have referred to themselves as the Order, which is quite spooky considering the lore of that. Oh, I think I might accidentally jumped ahead. My bad. Let me see. Oh, no, I didn't jump ahead. All right, okay, cool. We're good. All right, one more, or a couple more of these. Here's another one. According to Redacted, a man in Phoenix, Arizona, who belongs to a survivalist group similar to the TRM, manufactured 2 81mm cannons capable of firing a 6-pound shell 3 miles accurately. Oh, geez. Manufacturer's weapon was arrested in Phoenix on federal firearms charges by ATF, Redacted, to prevent his express intention to use one of the cannons to shoot at the FBI office in Phoenix. The probable cause for the arrest was based upon information from Redacted. It advised that his intention to fire the weapon to the FBI office in Phoenix was discussed in presence of Redacted of the TRM in Austin in November 91. Redacted says that these cannons were brought to Austin, Texas, where they were examined by subjects Redacted of the TRM in order to determine if Redacted and Redacted of the TRM were interested in buying these weapons. Redacted examined the weapons but declined to purchase them. It kind of gets a little bit unintelligible with the words here. Meeting where these weapons were being examined. Redacted used an electronics device to scan the walls of the room to determine if the room was being bugged by law enforcement. Investigation has determined that ATF in Austin is investigating another TRM member, which I think, once again, Texas Reserve Militia. So it's TRM or TLI, so it's just kind of interchangeable. I'm just saying that also because I kind of just honestly just noticed, what's this TRM? I'm like, oh yeah, that's TLI. ATF has received information that redacted is converting semi-automatic weapons to fully automatic weapons, and that he has also been involved in falsifying, I think, the paperwork and the purchase of weapons. According to Redacted, it stated on occasion that he's hiding weapons belonging to Redacted from law enforcement. Redacted is also reported concerning a white supremacist survivalist group called Civilian Material Assistance. Oh, here we go. This is a survivalist group that the gun manufacturer in Phoenix belongs to. Okay. So we're seeing all right, group that the gun manufacturer in Phoenix belongs to. According to Redacted, the CMA and TRM are so closely related, the officers in one have equal and dual rank in the other. Oh, shit. Group. Redacted advises that during the November 91 convention, the CMA in Decatur, Alabama, a group known as the something. Holy shit. This is, I don't know. I mean, obviously, this stuff is, I would assume maybe has been out for a while. I don't know. Maybe this is something that she has that is new. I don't know. Maybe I'll get to talk to her at some point and get some of this. But that's something. That sure is something for, I don't really need to tell you guys this, but any of you OKC heads, CMA, and showing that CMA TLI link, or TRM as they're referring to it here, man. All right. Wow. Okay. Sorry. Just thinking about that. That's something. Because I've always kind of in my head, it's just, to me, it's always been like the Roger Moore and then the Strassmeyer side of things were always kind of disjointed. All right. Okay. Maybe it's a little. All right. Jeez. Okay. Well, let's move on. I don't want to say anything too speculative. Just kind of. I know. I'm just gonna sit on that a little bit. That's something. All right. That's interesting. Okay. In a separate investigation initiated by the Phoenix Division, it has been determined that subject to this investigation and other members of this Texas Reserve Militia in Austin, Texas, have viewed and considered the purchase of a homemade 81mm cannon manufactured in Phoenix and capable of firing a 6-pound shell accurately 3 miles. The first prototype of this weapon was to be used to fire at the FBI office in Phoenix. Manufacturer and main possessor of that weapon have been arrested by the Phoenix Division. However, Phoenix investigation has established that the individual and his weapons were in Austin, Texas in November 91 for the purpose of presenting the weapon for examination by Redacted and other subjects of this case who are members of the Texas Reserve Militia, a.k.a. Texas Light Infantry. All right, geez. Okay, on to the next one. Another excerpt here. Not sure where it's from, but let's read this. PATCON consisted primarily of 3 FBI undercover agents posing as members of a fictional extremist group called the Veterans Aryan Movement. The 3 Patriot groups were the primary targets of PATCON, Civilian Material Assistance, the Texas Light Infantry, and the American Pistol and Rifle Association. PATCON agents roved the country for more than 2 years collecting intelligence on these and other Patriot organizations and on dozens of individuals, investigating leads on plots from the planned murder of federal agents on armed raids on nuclear power plants to a new American revolution. All right. Man, this is jeez, okay, yeah, a lot of them cooking in my brain right now. All right, let's keep moving. PATCON, on to the next part of her thread. PATCON undercover informant John Matthews later claimed that he saw McVeigh and Strassmeyer at the San Saba camp when they were where they were selling ammunition and other items stolen from military bases and were learning to make grenade launchers out of flare guns, which is what Roger Moore taught McVeigh how to do. According to Matthews, after the Oklahoma City bombing, he contacted his former PATCON handler, Don Jarrett, to tell him about having seen McVeigh there and was told the FBI already knew that. Here is an excerpt here. In the spring of 95, Matthews was sitting on the couch with his father at the house in Stockton, California when he heard the news. A truck bomb had exploded in front of a federal building in Oklahoma. Dozens had been killed, hundreds had been injured, and the face of the building looked like it had been chewed off by an animal with a giant maw. Matthews watched the coverage of the bombing with rapt attention. After all, this was the same sort of attack he had spent years trying to prevent. Days later, when McVeigh became the prime suspect and his photo flashed across the screen, Matthew realized he had seen him before. His mind drifted back to a weekend several years prior at a ranch in San Saba, Texas, where once a month the TRM held paramilitary training. It was a relatively warm Saturday morning. Matthews, who had spent the night on the ranch, was walking back from the woods where he had been setting up the evening's exercise when he spotted a group of men in fatigues hanging around a shed where the TRM stored explosives. Some of them, Matthews could tell by their haircuts and bearing, were ex-military. All right, let's keep going. Oh, here's more. Matthews and a few of his cohorts walked over to the men and introduced themselves. One man had dark hair, slightly buck teeth, and a foreign accent. His name was Andy, and Matthews later learned that he was from Germany. Another man was tall and lanky with short buzzed hair. He said his name was Tim. He, Tim, was a nobody, Matthews said. Just another ex-soldier, but I remember his face. He was at one of the meetings where a bunch of stolen ammunition was brought in from Fort Hood. Sitting in Father's living room in California, watching the television, Matthews decided he should call Jarrett. He told them about Tim and Andy, the German. Yet Jarrett seemed blasé about the matter. He said, "We know, John. Don't worry about it. We got it covered." Instead, he was more interested in whether Matthews had seen McVeigh in Arizona. At the time, Matthews was working for the Bureau there, infiltrating militias and separatists along with meth-cooking gangs of bikers. Apparently, Jarrett said McVeigh had spent time with similar groups, but Matthews never ran across him in Arizona, he said, only in Texas. Jarrett thanked him and said he'd keep him updated, but as Matthews recalled that was the last time they ever spoke about the bombing. When the FBI and the Justice Department eventually determined that McVeigh had largely acted alone in the bombing, with minimal assistance from the two men who eventually backed out of the attack, Matthews was skeptical. He began to wonder if it wasn't a repeat of the Browns Ferry incident all over again. I felt Don knew more about this, but he could never say something to me, Matthews said. Jarrett passed away in 2009. All right, let's keep going. However, Matthews was not clear about when he saw this and McVeigh's whereabouts about leaving WNY in January 1993 are, for the most part, well documented. All right, 1 second. Sorry, messing with something. Still, while Matthews' story is well known now, at least to those familiar with PATCON, reports of McVeigh at paramilitary training camps in Texas were not well known when Richard Van Hazel told Cherry Seymour about McVeigh's affiliation to one, which that's a callback to our last episode, to part one of this thread. And she actually has a quote tweeted in there as an example. McVeigh said Van Hazel was a member of the most intensive patriotic organization in America today and had trained with members of the Arizona Patriots and others involved in the underground, including Jack Oliphant at 2 locations. All right, back to this thread. Nevertheless, Matthews' contact list, interestingly, includes individuals in California and other states out west who were also found on Aryan Nations membership lists. And she shows a picture of his completing essentially the parachute training or parachute packing, ground training, and jumping. So a full-on jump is what it sounds like. Jump training. So they got jump training over at TLI, which is, even up into including that, pretty wild for what is a militia that's glowing like hell. So just to show, to verify he was there, this shows Matthews. So, Captain John Matthews over at TLI. So showing he completed that. Bob Holloway, reported leader of the TLI/TRM, was sometimes erroneously described as the brother of Dave Holloway, best known for his affiliation with the Cause, Lions, Strassmeyer, etc., which we've talked about him quite a bit. But we got a Bob Holloway, which I'm wondering now in retrospective, maybe I have mixed these two up. I don't know. But let's go ahead and read this. Militias appeared in the Northwest at least as early as 1989 and shared personnel, funds, images, and ideologies with the established white power movement. John Trockman, for instance, founded the militia of Montana in the late 1980s after involvement with Aryan Nations, and his ties to white power continued after that. Trockman spoke at the 1990 Aryan Nations World Congress. Wayne Ganya, head of the Tennessee State Militia, had also been an Aryan Nations leader, as had E. Tom Stetson, leader of the unorganized militia of Idaho. Bob Holloway, a former mercenary and white power activist, led the Texas Light Infantry, a major militia organization in Texas. Bob Holloway was, however, a close associate of Louis Beam, and like Dave, had close ties to Aryan Nations. And she shared some sort of a document here. It says redacted. He's a long-term associate of Louis Ray Beam Jr., the so-called ambassador at large of the Aryan Nation. Redacted. Redacted is an individual who first voiced the desire of the TRM to kill the 2 FBI agents who arrested Redacted, has accepted contributions to the TRM from Redacted, told the source Redacted that the TRM is going to come out of the bag very soon now. Redacted is the individual who has been the most vocal about the political and social goals of the TRM and has voiced the most hatred of persons of other races. All right. Bob, a former Special Forces Vietnam veteran who, like Bruce Campbell, was also a mercenary in Rhodesia. He designed and manufactured weapons and ordnance in Texas and maintained high-level government contacts worldwide. All right. I'm going to read this real quick. The following investigation was conducted by Special Agent Redacted on January 29, 1996. Redacted, who has provided reliable information in the past, advised that he/she was unfamiliar with and had never met a David Holloway, also known as AKA DMA Holloway, David Michael Holloway. The only Holloway was familiar with was Robert Bob Holloway, described as being approximately 45 years old, 5'11", tall, 190 pounds, having a barrel chest, round face, it's cut off right there. Something short blonde hair. Robert Holloway was an engineer who formerly owned Holloway Arms Company in Texas, was assigned to the Special Forces in Vietnam. Okay, Special Forces in Vietnam. That always raises my eyebrows, obviously. Whoa. Were you one of those Phoenix fellas? And also spent time in Rhodesia. So this dude glows. Possibly as a mercenary. Redacted stated that Holloway was active in the Aryan Nations movement, and that Holloway mentioned that he had a brother who was additionally active but more radical in the movement. Redacted did not know the first name of the brother or the brother's residence. Redacted advised that Robert Holloway is a close associate of Louis Ray Beam. All right, geez. So this guy is something, huh? Okay. So the Special Forces thing, man, that's something. Okay, let's keep going. As detailed in part by Sherry Seymour, and then it kind of goes into a firearm blog. I guess that one let me look at that one, see real quick. Let me glance at that. I'll show you what it is real quick. It's just a Holloway's Arms HAC-7, so I think it's just one of the guns he made kind of deal. Bob Holloway, then of Fort Worth, Texas in 1980s, built on his experiences in Southeast Asia and Rhodesia to build a .308 caliber military rifle, which eventually became the HAC-7. This rifle was an amalgamation of Armalite, FN, and Kalashnikov designs with a considerable amount of his own ingenuity thrown in. The result is now one of the most interesting might-have-beens of the 20th century, a lightweight .308 infantry rifle with 2 decades older than FN Scar H. Not much is known about Mr. Holloway, and what's known of his life has mostly been gained through study of the less than 350 weapons that were made between 1984 and 1985. Well, geez, never mind. I'm glad I friggin' brought this up, because it looks like we're actually going to go into him a little bit, maybe. The rifle, besides being a collection of good ideas, actually maybe they won't go into too much, because let's be real, I don't really care too much about the specifics of the rifle. Scroll through this. That's basically it, just the stuff on the rifle. Okay. I don't think there's anything much else to glean from it, but yeah, it's interesting. He did make he was a weapons, he created a weapon, kind of cool looking. But all right, let's back to the thread now. Bob Holloway reportedly ran or was affiliated with more than one paramilitary training site in Texas. So it says Bob Holloway, a former mercenary who served in South Africa, is an associate of Louis Beam and brother to David Holloway. Okay, I guess I think this is what she's talking about, where I guess it's a thing where they fuck up a bunch and they consider themselves brothers. I guess they're not. And brother David Holloway, another longtime supremacist. I mean, I guess that would be confusing. I'm pretty sure David was at TLI too, so that's why I'm like, did I mess that up before? Because this is kind of the first I've never heard about Bob Holloway before. I never really got into this far into the weeds. So pretty interesting. This guy is a shady character. He reportedly has 5 clandestine compounds, back to Wendy, obviously, in Texas, where paramilitary training is conducted. On at least 2 occasions, Red Beckman spoke to members of the TLI, a militia group Holloway leads. Beam brought members of Aryan Nations to Holloway's compounds at least once. Well, I said back to her words, I think a minute ago. Obviously, I'm reading a document. You know what I mean. Okay. Interesting. All right, let's keep moving. In March 93, soon after meeting Roger Moore, McVeigh left Florida and made his first known trip to Waco, Texas. Guys, it's about to get interesting. All right, back to Wendy. There were rumors and claims, including by James Nichols, that McVeigh met Davidian gun dealer Paul Fatta at a gun show in Texas prior to the siege and fire in Waco. Which, it's funny, I literally, before I started this episode, I sent this over to my buddy Austin because I knew that this would get him excited. But let's keep moving. Back to Wendy. Indeed, McVeigh was consistently vague about key details surrounding his trips, plural there, to Waco, which, all right, let's get into it. Here we go. Ryder received facts from ATF command post RE information concerning Paul Fatta, information received from Rob Milford of Houston. Milford stated he observed Fatta at gun shows in January 93 in Houston and San Antonio, and in March 93 at a gun show in Austin. At the various gun shows, Milford observed AR-15s, grenade launcher tubes, Kevlar helmets, uniforms, boots, flak jackets, and bulletproof vests on Fatta's tables. He heard Fatta meet with an unknown man who specializes in selling meals ready to eat. Man. I mean, I told you I read through this before, but I mean, to be honest, I kind of like breezed through it. I didn't go through mostly like her words. I'm obviously reading one of the documents now, so I'm like, all right, yeah, ooh, that's something. And for those, as I said, not hand-holding, but I think this isn't really hand-holding. This is kind of a deep cut. I can't remember where I've heard this before. Maybe there were several different claims, but I swear I vaguely recall there were claims that was a thing that McVeigh was doing, was selling MREs or something. So, he was selling MREs at the show. So, I mean, which I guess maybe that's not that uncommon. Let's be real. I guess you could find that at these Soldier of Fortune stuff. I mean, MREs really aren't that crazy. They're kind of this niche item you would see as kind of like at any sort of military surplus store, you're going to find them probably. So I guess maybe it's not that unique, but still, I'm like, it gets me like, whoa, what's going on here? Okay. Because it's a little bit more specific. But, okay, this is both at San Antonio and Houston gun shows. Fatta stated he wanted to place a large order, facts submitted into evidence. So, okay. Let's keep going. Although perhaps unknowingly, Fatta had dealings with one of Moore's international arms dealer buddies who had made numerous sales to both Fatta and Koresh. Something I'd been told years ago by someone who knew one of the buddies, but was unable to substantiate until 2 years ago when, to my amazement, Cav Death George discovered the receipts, which I guess I haven't blocked. Which I'll say, to my defense, nothing to do with his research. I've heard nothing but good things. So, and I've actually heard him on podcasts, and I've always been very impressed. But I guess he has issues with me. So, all right. So I blocked him as a result. I don't even remember why, but let's keep moving. Sherry Seymour memorialized in August 1995 conversation with Eva Weil, a nationally known Patriot / militia activist in Hayden Lake, Idaho, with close ties to the Aryan Nations, the militia of Montana, and Louis Beam. All right, let's go and read this. The Ruby Ridge incident remains a significant event of martyrdom for the Patriot movement. Many Patriot organizations were established as a result of the camaraderie that they experienced with others who shared a similar distrust for the American government. The late Eva Vale Lamb, a Bo Grits for President organizer. I didn't know that was a thing. Okay. All right. Founded the Idaho Organized Militia with the purpose being to be ready to intervene in future situations that replicate the Weaver incident. Bo Gritz establishes paramilitary spike training program to prepare Americans with Delta Force skills that they can use for future confrontations with the New World Order. Christian Identity Pastor Pete Peters organized the Estes Park, Colorado conference that brought together various leaders and 150 to 175 Christian men of the far-right movement to discuss how to handle the government's intolerable acts against the Weaver family. Okay. All right, let's keep moving. Man, all right, interesting stuff. Although citizen militias and other like-minded groups are male-dominated, women are increasingly active, and in a few cases taking on leadership roles. One of the first clarion calls for the formation of modern-day militias came from Eva Vale, a longtime right-wing activist following the 92 siege at Ruby Ridge, Idaho. All right, let's keep moving. Here's more. It says workshop warns against gays, drugs. 1 second. Let me see if maybe I can. Trying to find. All right, give me a second. The government is brainwashing people into becoming sex slaves, and Idaho Christian Patriot leader said Saturday. Eva Vale, who made an early morning trip with her home in Hayden Lake to attend a boys' workshop, drew a ladder to illustrate her point. She scribbled the words God on top and Satan on bottom. In the middle, she wrote initials representing homosexuals, drug users, and alcoholics. She put torture in the next rung down and worshiping Satan in the last rung. American society and government are descending the ladder, Vale said, adding that former House Speaker Tom Foley and President Bill Clinton are homosexuals and Hillary Clinton a lesbian. None of this shocks Brian Berquist, who is leading the campaign to defeat an anti-gay initiative before it gets on Idaho's ballot. This kind of rhetoric has been part of the extreme right for years, Berquist said, though I think it says volumes when these people build a ladder with God at the top. I'm sure they'd put themselves right beneath. Vale, Vice President of Concerned Citizens of Idaho, said she hopes God-fearing leaders such as 1st District Representative Helen Chenoweth, a Republican in Idaho, will set things right. But the dozen people who joined Vale at the workshop Saturday worry that's too late. They fear the federal deficit has bankrupted the nation. They're disgusted with the public schools. They're sick of corrupt politicians, and they're prepared to fight back. Vale offered a detailed account of how she'd hidden Fatta in her basement while Fatta was a fugitive wanted in connection with events at Mount Carmel. Here we go. U.S. agents hunt ex-IL cultists. Paul Fatta is wanted in a illegal weapons case. It says Waco, Texas. A federal arrest warrant has been issued for former Hawaii resident Paul Fatta, Branch Davidian member who was outside the cult's compound when a firefight erupted February 28th between Davidians and federal agents. The sealed warrant charges Fatta, 35, with conspiring and other cult members to manufacture and possess unregistered machine guns. A federal bureau of the BEATF officials said today 4 federal agents were killed and 16 others were wounded during the shootout at the cult's compound. At least 3 cult members were killed. As the siege entered its 12th day today, federal agents carried out raids on opposite sides of the country in an investigation into how David Koresh and his disciples armed themselves. In addition, a cult member was arrested on attempted murder charges for his role in the shootout. The Bureau gathered evidence in La Verne, California, and Richland, South Carolina, of cult arms transactions. We're looking into many different sources of arms from Mr. Koresh, said Dan Conroy, ATF Deputy Associate Director. Federal agents have said the cult has a huge cache of weapons, including semi-automatic and automatic guns. The search of a house owned by the cultists in California yielded audio and videotapes and other records that reflect evidence of violence by David Koresh and others in the cult, Conroy said. Then it continues on to the next part. Vale laid out the series of events surrounding this and the people, all closely affiliated or holding leadership roles at Aryan Nations, involved in spiriting Fatta to Vales and later back to Texas, where he surrendered himself to authorities. So here's another article. It says Houston, Paul Fatta, one of cult leader David Koresh's reputed see. Dang it, stupid thing in the way. Inner something leaders turned himself to federal authorities Monday. Fatta was charged with multiple counts of conspiracy to manufacture and possess unregistered machine guns, and Texas Ranger Brantley Foster. Koresh and his followers had accumulated a huge stockpile of weapons and munitions. Fatta, 35, had been sought by officials since a February 28th raid outside Waco that left 4 federal agents dead and triggered the 51-day siege that ended with the deadly inferno of a week ago. Fatta and his 14-year-old son had left the Mount Carmel commune early on the Sunday morning of the raid to attend a gun show in Austin. They could not return after authorities sealed off the area following the initial gun battle. Fatta remained in hiding until today. On the Sunday morning of the raid to attend a gun show. Okay, so they got out of there in time. It's weird that they're giving him so much shit. But anyways, he spent most of the time in North Idaho. Never mind. I missed the one line. They could not return after authorities sealed off the area following the initial gun battle. Fatta remained in hiding until today. He had spent most of the time in North Idaho. He was placed under arrest by 2 Texas Rangers as he entered the federal building in downtown Houston late Monday morning. His attorney, Mike DeGurin, said his client preferred to surrender to the Rangers because he did not trust federal marshals. Fatta was frisked and had his pockets emptied after walking through a metal detector. He was then whisked up an elevator so authorities could question him. He said, DeGurin said authorities could ask for a continuance, allowing them to hold Fatta for 3 days before a decision on bond would be made. McVeigh, who met Vale in 94, described her as affiliated. Dang it, I did that stupid thing where it glitches. Give me a second. Let me go back to where I was. All right, McVeigh, who met Vale in 94, described her as affiliated with the Christian identity movement. Vale was part of a network of individuals closely aligned with Aryan Nations, attempting to establish a series of safe houses to harbor politically persecuted fugitives. A photo of Eva Vale and Carolyn Trockman, who's the wife of John, in 1994. So there's a photo of them. Just weeks after the fiery deaths in Waco, Texas, McVeigh met Strassmeyer, Dennis Mayhon, and another man while manning Roger Moore's table at a Tulsa gun show. McVeigh described Mayhon and the other man as white Okies. So, and here is the Elohim City business card again from Robert Millar. I believe this is the same one. Why she's showing it? I believe this is the same one that he had that I think was given him by Strassmeyer. Maybe I'm wrong. This is maybe a different one. I don't know if it's specifically this Robert Millar one, but I know part of the lore is that McVeigh had the business card on him too. So I don't know if it's a specific one or not. Elohim City not only had ties to Aryan Nations in Idaho, or no, it wasn't. I don't know if it was he said he had it on him, or if maybe that was Strassmeyer claimed he gave it to him, or I forget. Somehow part of the lore is that he had a card, or so I'm not sure if it's that one particularly. Elohim City not only had ties to Aryan Nations in Idaho and a number of individuals residing in Texas, but also to various individuals in Arizona. Evidence in part by numerous phone calls from there to different locations in Arizona from 93 until after the Oklahoma City bombing. All right, here we go. Following investigation was conducted by special agents. Oh, geez, look at this thing. What a breath of fresh air with none of these redactions. Oh, my God. Whew, this will be nice. So this was conducted by Special Agent Travis K. Saros at San Saba, Oklahoma. On September 26, 95, Vernon Phillips, trooper, Oklahoma City Patrol, San Saba, Oklahoma, furnished the following information as a result of his liaison with a confidential source that has proven reliable in the past and has furnished information to him regarding the activities of individuals residing at Elohim City in Adair County, Oklahoma. Ray Lampley visited Elohim City on June 24, 95. September 1st and 2nd, 1995, September 17th, 1995, September 21st, 1995. Accompanied by an unidentified white male described as approximately 6'4" tall, weighing 220 pounds. The purpose of Lampley's visit was unknown. However, Lampley was known to have met on these dates with an EC resident identified as Robert Mack McHenry. McHenry resides in an A-frame house just south of the EC church. CS advised Lampley is suspected of having shot a Missouri State Trooper with a high-powered rifle. Dan Wright, a resident currently of Mountain Home, Arkansas, is known to have provided major funding to John Millar when Elohim City was being founded. Wright is believed to still reside in Mountain Home, Arkansas, and to still provide significant financial support to Millar. Father Lee, a known member of the Aryan Nations group established in Arizona, has visited Elohim City on several occasions in the past 2 months. The purpose of Lee's visits are unknown. All right, let's go this. On or about August 23rd, 95, George Eaton is known to have departed from his residence near Elohim City with a loaded U-Haul bound for an unknown location in Arizona. Dennis Mayhon, himself an attendee at various Aryan Nations functions, placed numerous phone calls from his house in Tulsa to his mysterious man in Phoenix, Arizona in the weeks and months surrounding the Oklahoma City bombing. Perhaps the long-distance phone calls were getting too pricey because he eventually moved to Arizona, was convicted to and sentenced to 40 years in prison for a 2004 mail bombing spree. All right, we're at the end there. Came right up right at the end. Let's just I guess a little fun little bonus here. She did attach a link to an article concerning Mayhon's arrest. So hey, why not? Let's dig a little bit into the arrest, the specifics on that. I feel like that we could have breezed over, but hey, we're not making bad time. So let's read this. It's back in 2012. White supremacist Dennis Mayhon gets 40 years for Arizona bombing. Says a white supremacist likely will spend the rest of his life behind bars after a federal judge sentenced him to 40 years in prison Tuesday for a 2004 bombing that wounded a black city official in suburban Phoenix. Jurors in February convicted Dennis Mayhon, 61, of 3 federal charges stemming from a package bomb that injured Don Logan, Scottsdale's diversity director at the time, and his secretary. They stopped short of finding him guilty of a hate crime after a 6-week trial that included dramatic testimony from Logan and a female government informant dubbed a trailer park Mata Hari by defense attorneys. In handing down the sentence, U.S. District Judge David Campbell said he believed the bombing was premeditated and done to promote an agenda of hate and racism. He called it an act of domestic terrorism. Mayhon, meanwhile, maintained his innocence, telling the crowded courtroom, "I didn't do this bombing." He said he felt bad for the victims, but I can't apologize for something I didn't do. Mayhon had faced between 7 and 100 years in prison. Since there is no parole in the federal system, he likely will spend the rest of his life behind bars. His identical twin brother, Daniel, also faced a charge in the case, but was acquitted. That's interesting. I didn't know he had an identical brother. So there's a Daniel Mayhon that looks exactly like Dennis Mayhon. Wouldn't you know? All right. The package bomb detonated in Logan's hands on February 26, 2004 in a Scottsdale City building. Prosecutors allege the Mayhon brothers bombed Logan on behalf of a group called the White Aryan Resistance, which they said encouraged members to act as lone wolves and commit violence against non-whites in the government. They showed surveillance tapes at trial of the brothers referring to Logan in racial slurs. They also placed a voicemail that Dennis Mayhon left at Scottsdale's diversity office just months before the bombing, which he angrily said, "The white Aryan resistance is growing in Scottsdale. There's a few white people who are standing up." Defense attorneys said someone working for the city of Scottsdale was likely the perpetrator because Logan's job made him unpopular. During Tuesday's hearings, Logan said he believes his skin color was the motivation for the attack. He told the judge that Dennis Mayhon's actions warranted the maximum sentence. "Don Logan didn't ask to be here. I am here by default. I am here for justice," Logan said. "Dennis Mayhon does not deserve to be free." During the trial, defense attorneys heavily criticized the use of 41-year-old Rebecca Williams as an informant, nicknaming her the trailer park Mata Hari, reference to the Dutch exotic dancer who was convicted as working as a spy for Germany during World War I. Investigators met the former stripper through her brother, an informant on the Hells Angels motorcycle gang, and recruited her for the Mayhon case, directing her to act like a government separatist and racist. She wore revealing clothes and sent racy photos to the brothers to win their trust. Oh, my God. Williams met the brothers in January 2005 after investigators set her up in a government-provided trailer at a Catoosa, Oklahoma campground where the brothers were staying at the time. Confederate flag was placed in her window, and prosecutors said that Mayhon introduced themselves within minutes of her arrival. Oh, my God. They flawlessly honeypotted them. Just threw a semi-cute chick at a trailer park and just let the rest do its work. That's funny. Dennis Mayhon opened up to Williams as their conversations were recorded, telling her how to make bombs after she told him a fictitious story that she wanted to harm a child molester she knew. In one conversation, she asked Mayhon if he had ever had a bomb work, to which he replied, "Yeah, diversity officer." All right, getting himself in trouble. Logan testified at trial about the unbearable pain he felt after he opened the package, describing the lights going out, the room filling with smoke, and debris falling from the ceiling. Logan, who now works as a diversity administrator in the Phoenix suburb of Glendale, was hospitalized for 3 days. He needed 4 surgeries to remove shrapnel from his arm and hand, do a skin graft on a severely damaged forearm, and restore use of some of his fingers that nearly had to be amputated. Dennis Mayhon's defense team also has maintained his innocence, with his attorney, Deborah Williams, crying in court Tuesday and saying, "I don't believe Dennis Mayhon has done this. He has not lived a good life in the way that most people would think of it," she said. His attorneys also have argued no evidence showed the bombing was done with the intent to seriously injure or kill Logan. They know there were no deaths or life-threatening injuries from the bombing. I mean, I would say, I mean, it's kind of wild to give him what they said was, I think what they say, something ridiculous, like 100 years or something crazy. I don't know. But, so, I mean, yeah, don't make me wrong. Like, this definitely should get in trouble, but that does seem excessive. All right. Prosecutors who recommended a sentence of more than 60 years says Dennis Mayhon intended to send a political message by trying to kill Logan. The Mayhons were living in the Phoenix area at the time of the bombing, but left days afterward and were arrested in 2009 in Illinois. Dennis Mayhon's attorneys argue their client often makes exaggerated, self-aggrandizing claims that aren't true, that he was an alcoholic who constantly was drinking Everclear, and that his statements to Williams were just meant to impress her. Mayhon was found guilty of conspiracy to damage buildings and property by means of explosives, malicious damage of a building by means of explosives, and distribution of information related to explosives. He was acquitted of conspiracy to damage buildings and property. What the hell? Did it just repeat itself? That's weird. I don't know why this thing did itself twice. Okay, or unless it's... Oh, I think it might be just showing previous reporting on it or something. Okay. I think that's the end of that one. Right, let's get back to the thread. Kind of finish it out here. She says, up next, part 3, Arizona 1993, coming soon. It's already out. We'll be doing it. I'll probably record it sometime next week. Not sure when. And then she says, a note from Pancakes McCoy, the decoy cat. The remaining threads in this Van Hazel series focus primarily on Arizona and surrounding states, while this one trace connections between various organizations and individuals elsewhere. The intent of them all, however, is to explore, contextualize, and situate Van Hazel's claims, which we'll get more into in the next episode. And I will let you know, I actually just talked to Wendy, we DM'd the other day, and she was telling me that, hey, she's getting ready to wrap these up, and I forget what number she's on, but she says she has like a couple more, and she's going to tie them all together. So I'm just saying, she kind of made a point of that, so I think what she's kind of driving at is, obviously I haven't gotten to some of the other later threads yet, so I'm not entirely sure, but I think she's saying that kind of like maybe... I'm just saying hang in there, and then maybe, I mean, obviously we're only at 2 right now, so I'm just saying, but at the end, I think a lot of it's going to start to come together. I think maybe just different threads will start kind of tying into each other. So I'm just letting you guys know that if you ever get to a point where like maybe start being like, what kind of thinking we're kind of jumping all over the place, presenting a lot of different information, and then I think essentially my understanding of where this information is going is then it's going to kind of all tie together at the end. So. Just hold on. There's going to be a bunch of these. We're digging into the weeds. As I said before, this is not the 101. This is not Oklahoma City bombing 101. You want that? You go back to part 1 of my Oklahoma City bombing series and you start from there. All right. Go read a book. Go read Aberration of the Heartland of the Real. All right. This is assuming you've read a certain amount. But guys, we're gonna get out of here. We'll be back soon with another one. If you do want to support this show, if you don't want to chip in a buck, what you can do is leave a like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. All those things help. Leave a 5-star review on iTunes or Spotify. Also, you can follow me on Twitter at @TowerGangJose, especially for the morning show. Tag me and stuff. That's kind of how I generate content for that. And you guys are my eyes and ears on there and latest developments and such. So always appreciate a follow. It helps out. Tag me and stuff. Although if you want to directly support the show in kind of the best way you really kind of can with money, patreon.com/NoWayJose2020 is the way to do that. And the lowest level is $2. I mean, obviously if you guys are tight, I get it. Times are tight. If you can't afford it, don't. But like, hey, it's $2. So let's be real. Most of you guys can. And if you do find some value, maybe consider it. And the perks that you will get from that are early episodes, much like this one right here. I think I currently have something ridiculous, like 5 behind the paywall, but the goal is like 4 behind the paywall at a time. We're 1 to 2 a week. We're doing these paywalled episodes, so you have weeks of paywalled content, and then also you can add free RSS feed available there at the through the Patreon, and you also get priority on me and Austin's weekly live call-in show, Already Dead, which is on Tuesdays at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. And also the high level of my sponsors, my high level of my Patreon are my sponsors. I read them off every week as a big thank you to them. I have my co-host and Tower Gang at Tower Gang Toad, also at Brigadies, at ZOVRECK, at _Infant Zeal, Tim Tuttle, at Jolly Uncleable, Will Bells, Delicious Blueberry, Rabbit Eye Wine, big fan of the show, Torn Man, at INWRAD Lover. Appreciate all of you guys who watch this. And that we are out. Look forward to the next one.